but I'd also never done anything animated before. And for some crazy reason, she wanted to work with me. Money should never be a barrier to making your art. So we were fortunate in that we were able to apply for R&D funds. It fits in with their mission statements. People want to fund work. I could be wrong, but I think all in, our overall budget was about $125,000.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Felix Skinner, and this is the first episode of something. And the idea is to talk to short animation directors and creators. We want to demystify the craft, and we want to democratize the craft. And we want as many animators out there spending their free time creating, writing, and giving us exciting stuff, exciting 5 minutes, exciting 10 minutes. And today, my first episode, we have a guest which is you're gonna love, Ciara Lacy. She's the director of an amazing film. She's gonna tell everything about it. Let's do it, okay?
Lama-lama iluna ka ono hila Nahi koua koko ulala Kaho ailona ka puo ke kamaha He maina kupuna.
Hi, Ciara Lacy.
Hi, aloha. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
What does Haloa means to you? Why Haloa?
Aloha is Hawaiian for hello, it's Hawaiian for goodbye, and it's Hawaiian for love. I'm born and raised in Hawaii. I'm multicultural. My father is French Irish from Indiana, and my mother is half Hawaiian, half Native Hawaiian, half Chinese. And I went to a school for Native Hawaiians. So I have a decent facility with speaking Native Hawaiian. And the majority of my creative work centers around the Native Hawaiian experience. So most of the filmmaking I've done to date.
That's wonderful. Now let's jump to your movie because it's very much connected to where you're from and your background, right? What's the name of the movie?
So the name of the movie is The Queen's Flowers. It references our last monarch in the nation of Hawaii, from the nation of Hawaii, Queen Liliuokalani. And flowers is a reference to part of the storyline in the film, but also as a Hawaiian, flowers are napua, flowers napua, so pua means flower. It is also a reference to people. So not only does the title reference the flowers that are used in the film with the queen, but also references her her people.
That's so wonderful. Okay, so we're talking about a 2D animation, right? It's about 11 minutes long. Give me like a timeline, okay? When did it start and how?
So to give a little context, I am documentary filmmaker by trade. So this was an unusual project for me to work on something that was animated. I'd never done content about kids, or for kids, I should say. So this is an animated film for children. Hopefully some adults will watch it. But I'd also never done anything animated before. The world that I come from in terms of documentary, everything already exists. So I have a real world that I then like work with a team to kind of like sculpt and build a story. Whereas animation is radically different. You have all the options in the world. Everything's possible. People can flip upside down. You could like anything's possible. And so it was a really wonderful opportunity for me to try something super new. And this project was brought to me by the producer of this project, Connie Salcido Trejo. She had learned of this story and fell in love with it and just wanted to make the film and wanted to collaborate with somebody. And for some crazy reason, she wanted to work with me. So we started this journey pre-pandemic in 2019.
Okay.
So it was quite a long time in the making. We had originally thought we were going to make a live action short. And in our first conversations, but then when COVID hit, we didn't feel comfortable filming with elderly, young children in the COVID environment. And so it sort of transformed into this conversation about doing animation, and it changed everything. And we just got so excited. And that sort of really launched the journey that brought the film that you've seen already. So
That's wonderful. So we're talking about 4 years in the making. So she found that story, look at somebody who can really connect, and that's where you come from. And your experience from filmmaking, it made sense to bring it anywhere.
yeah, I was fortunate in the sense that I have a background, like a stronger background as a producer. As a producer, oftentimes I found that you don't have to exactly know how to do everything. It's impossible to. So I was less afraid of trying something new, because I knew that if I found the right partners and I learned the process, I could figure out how to make it work with
Mhm.
my producer. So I'd also in a previous life produced and managed music videos and narrative films, so I did have that in my back pocket. On the creative side, like I'd mostly only directed documentary. It was a big shift in terms of the creative side of things, but in terms of more on the managerial side, like the producerial side, it was I was like, okay, well, we can figure this out. So, we kind of just jumped into it.
That's wonderful. So you wrote this story.
Yeah, so the film itself is based on a true story, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
magical take on a true story. The Queen Liliuokalani, at the end of her life, lived in her home that was next to a school for girls. She and the girls had a special relationship, and when my producer Connie, she was taking dance classes, she was taking hula, which is the traditional form of dance in Hawaii, and her teacher mentioned a story about a family member who used to go to this girls' school, and they asked the family member, "Did you ever meet the queen?" And she joked and she said, "I used to steal her flowers." And so,
Oh.
which is super cute. And then you're like, what? Who steals flowers from a queen? And in Hawaii, if you have a visitor or someone that you want to appreciate for any reason, like a graduation, a show, a performance, any special occasion, you gift them with a lei. So you
Mm-hmm.
sew all the flowers into a beautiful garland, and or you could weave them. There's a variety of ways to do it. But the girls at this school didn't have any flowers on their campus. So they used to sneak into the queen's garden, which was very beautiful, pick some of her flowers to sew her leis, which is a cute little story. So that was sort of the basis that we built our story on.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So tell me, how did you even think about starting the animation?
Since we knew that one of our core collaborators, contributors, would be the animator that we worked with, we just started talking to animators, potential collaborators and partners. And we talked to a handful, and we would ask them, what is their style? How do they like to work? What type of stories they're excited about. So really trying to find a fit or a connection, both in terms of how they connected to the storytelling and our goals for the story, and also their creative sensibility. So is their style a fit? And then also asking, because again, every artist is a little different, asking them about what is their process. How do they build? What programs do they use? What style of animation is it? And really just we talked to a good handful of people of a variety of skill sets, people um who had just graduated from college, people who have had long careers, people who just came from all over. And it was a really, like, I think that part of the process was really educational. Obviously, we did a little bit of like reading before we went into it, but I think understanding how other people like to work is also useful, because everyone's got their own workflow. So
Mhm.
that was the biggest part of what we asked.
So you did the storyboard first, right?
No.
So you didn't. Tell
So
me
this is a great question. So
no,
once we found our animator, and and
which
and
is
so we had the privilege of working with Dan Sousa, who's a Oscar-nominated animator out of Rhode Island, an
mhm,
incredible talent, a really humble human being. We couldn't have found a better collaborator for this film. He built this movie 2D Flash in
mhm,
Flash,
mhm.
and He really took on a lot of the technical elements of it in terms of like the computer animation, but in terms of like workflow that we would interface with, you know, we first started with the script, talked at
Hmm.
length about the script. I talked at length about visual elements that were important. We even brought, because this was historical in a sense, we provided mountains of reference images,
Hmm.
images based on the Queen's home, the school for girls, down to the plants that were used in both places. What did nuns, there were nuns at the school. What did the nuns look like? What did the girls look like? What did they wear? The type of colors we would expect. Really, really, really like elaborate conversations just talking about what this world building would be. And then Dan presented designs. So first we start off with like character designs and environmental designs, just like to understand sets and settings and what's possible. And what's incredible is Dan, and this really speaks to Dan as like a creative, if you look at the reference images that we built in the beginning, the final film really sticks true. Like the details will have changed, but the lighting, general color sensibility, all of it, it really stuck true. And so you'll see that that's still in there. And so we started with the character designs and the setting designs,
Hmm.
and then we went straight into animatic. There was
Okay.
no storyboarding, which I think for some is like very radical.
Hmm.
But for Dan's process, and again, this is speaking to who's the artist you're working with. For him, he had found that it saves a lot of time. He likes to go straight from storyboard to animatic. And I think part of that is because he has a very unique process in that he does everything solo. So, for
Hmm.
a lot of animation, people might have teams, they might have partners, they might have, Pixar's got all the millions of people, right? He is one person
Hmm.
who does it all. And in this space, not uncommon, right? When we're talking about the art space for animation, it's not uncommon. But yeah, he does it all. So in his experience working with others, he's found that it's faster to just go straight from the designs to the animatic. And we spend a lot of time on the animatic, really dialing in the motion, the performances. Dan, because Dan had the reference images and he's such a beautiful artist, what was really a benefit is we could spend a lot of time working on the performances. And part of the reason why that was so important is the film's nonverbal.
Hmm.
And that was something we really loved about the work, that it meant that since it wasn't based on talking, it could be valuable across multiple communities. We didn't have to necessarily translate the work.
Hmm.
And for those that had like any sort of like special ability needs, we could really like tailor the work for them, because it wasn't necessarily about speaking or sound, um, or other elements. So we really were able to focus on performance. And then once we finished the animatic, then it was, again, continuing to dial in on performance once we got into what we would call like the rough animation phase. And then, so then it was just like proper full motion. And after we finished that phase, then we went into color and lighting. So that was sort of his process to kind of chunk things out. We would do designs, then into animatic, then into rough animation, all just motion, no color. And then we went to color and lighting.
And that's a great insight, because right now, even big production companies, when they work on storyboard, their storyboard are moving. The jump from storyboard to animatic is so small that if you can start from animatics. It's practically the same as storyboarding, just with little movements and timing. And that's a wonderful example here. A professional who have not a lot of people to communicate their ideas to, a one-on-one kind of situation, right? Is it you and an animator? It's great for like a big team that developing a story. But here, the writer had a great finished product and a very experienced animator. You might not feel as experienced to do so right away, so stick with the storyboards first. The process here is such fluid, and I hope to talk to more directors and animators. Each short will be a different story. And I appreciate you sharing this. It's such a great insight.
And
Um,
Dan was really kind with us. He understood that we were coming from live action and documentary. He was really kind to help make sure we understood his process and walk us through how he liked to work. And we did our best to learn and work in that space. So it was
that's
cool. It was
that's
cool.
amazing. Sound, music, recording. There's a beautiful chorus that girls performed. Tell me all about it. How did you find Jonathan Zelben? Is it your composer? It's a
Yes.
great did a great job. Please tell me all of that.
So there were maybe two, three sound elements to kind of break things down. There is a hero song that we hear at the end of the film, and it's sort of alluded to throughout the movie. And that song, Hei Inoa no Kaiulani, was written by the Queen. And so
Wow.
the Queen herself had been a brilliant musician, a brilliant composer. And so it was really important to us that we picked a song that was from the Queen that she had written, and that it was something that was catchy. That if you end the film with it, it would kind of stick in your mind. And so we went through a pretty like hefty research process to make sure we had the appropriate rights to use the song. We had a
Mhm.
great team over at the University of California um, in their intellectual property and clinic under Professor Jack Lerner that did a ton of research to help us make sure we could use the song appropriately. And then once we had the permission, we went to my former school, my former high school, or I guess should say school, my school that was the Kamehameha schools, which was for Native Hawaiian children. And so the chorus that you hear singing is a collection of girls in the Kamehameha School's elementary school chorus. So they're all Native Hawaiian girls singing this song. And then the other voice you hear is Star Kalahiki. Star is a Native Hawaiian singer, and she has spent a good chunk of her performing over the last handful of years, performing songs written by the Queen. So it only felt appropriate to have her voice the sounds of the Queen. Now this film is nonverbal in the sense that we don't hear like words per se, outside of the song being sung, but we do hear like a laugh or like a sigh. And so we did set up a formal recording session where we recorded those sort of like sound cues. And so we had all the girls come into the studio, record the song, and we had Star come into the studio, record the voice of the Queen. And then this is fun. Our producer Connie, who had gone to schools with nuns, voiced in Mexico, voiced the nun in the film. So
Wow.
yeah, it was super fun to do. And it brought a lot of life to the film. And then we had a sound designer. Sound design for animation, huge,
Yeah.
huge. So we were privileged to work with Timothy Korn, who I'd worked with previously to do the sound design. He added on these like sounds of birds and getting the right sound of bird because Hawaii doesn't have a lot of the birds that other places have. So getting that right feel, the sound of the wind, all those details, a little bit of echo. So he did a really phenomenal job with that. And then something you had brought up, the score, the music in the film. Um, Outside of the song that was written by the Queen, Jonathan Zalbin composed the score of the film. He is a dear friend. We went to college together. We were
Mhm.
roommates for a bit in the East Village in New York. So I bring this up if only because some people you meet professionally, like Timothy Korn, I'd worked with him before and had an incredible experience. And at other times, you just want to work with your friends. And I was privileged that my friend's such an awesome composer. Everyone has loved the music
Yeah.
in the film, and he's the most humble, hardworking, and like wonderful person. And fun fact,
Hmm.
in the recordings of the songs that he wrote, it's his son Liam who is also playing with him. And which is really cool because we were trying to get it's a film for kids, so as many kids we can get on, we love. And so Liam played the guitar in the film and a few things, and I think what was really nice is, it gave a different feel and a different sensibility than if like his father, my friend John, had played. So
Hmm.
it gave a little bit of like a kiddish texture to the sound, which is super fun.
It's amazing. My son is on, helps me on all my movies. He's in the titles. He's a colorist or character designer, and the one I'm working right now, he co-wrote it, and so he's a co-writer.
I will
Uh,
say this, Dan Sousa, our animator, his daughter, she gave a lot of feedback on every cut of the film. It was super fun to be able to have her as part of our test audience. Even when we were doing scratch track or like scratch VO, she was like record like little sounds that we could then use in the animatic. So it was super fun.
Use your kids.
You
They are
gotta you gotta
they
use
are
what you got. Use
they are
what you got.
free. Tell us about your producers. There's a lot of producers. I guess they all bring a different thing, and it's a big team. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would so Connie was sort of our on the ground producer. She helped fundraise the cash, she helped like build the project from the beginning. It was her idea in the first place. So I honor that. So she was sort of the core producer, nuts and bolts, anything we needed. She set up our sound records, all the things. Um, and then like on some of the other elements, like I helped with the fundraising as well. I helped with grant writing. We're really funded by a handful of grants from really incredible organizations. I also helps with the post producing, outputting all the different versions of the film, whether it's DCP for download or ProRes or movie files. A lot of festivals require so many different versions of the film to
Hmm.
exhibit it. So we've had to make a variety of outputs for that purpose. We have another producer or executive producer, Dean Hamer. He came on to help us with our festival run and festival strategy.
Hmm.
And it's been nothing but a gift to work with him, to have somebody really focused on that. It takes a lot of work just to make the film. So sometimes by the time you're ready to put it out into the world, you're just tired.
Oh yeah.
And there's so much else to do. Even if even if you are starting to submit to the films or to the festivals, the applications have a lot of details that you need to be able to provide, and you're still working on like outputting deliverables and all that. And so and then you have to fundraise to pay for some of it too, right? The
Hmm.
applications or the submissions to festivals aren't free. And so to have someone come on and help sort of usher us through that after, 5 years of trying to make the thing has been a really big gift. And then the Nichols, Robert and Linda Nichols have been really incredible supporters of the film. They've given feedback on cuts and have been financial supporters, so they've provided funding as well. And that sort of breaks down the different roles in terms of producers on this project. My dear friend and former boss, Terry Leonard, who is very experienced in the animation space. He had a film called Marcel the Shell with Shoes On that he produced
Hmm.
that went to the Oscars last year.
Yeah.
And so when we started grant writing for finishing funds, I asked if he would come on to provide critique, give us comments, and also having his name as part of the project gave people who didn't know about me or my collaborators a stronger confidence in the work because Terry has such a strong background in doing really high quality work.
So many people helped you on this journey.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's another thing. You just collect friends. Just live your life, collect friends. This way, you'll have collaborators.
And I think
Great.
it also meant that people didn't have to do a ton of stuff. There's like
Mm-hmm.
we could kind of reduce the workload if so and so is just focused on this and this person's focused on that. Then it wasn't overwhelming because this project was a labor of love. People still had their full-time jobs or other freelance work that they're doing. So I wanted to be very realistic about what I asked of all of our partners and not overwhelm anyone. So it could be like, oh, in between all the other things you're doing, can you do X, Y, and Z? And if it's not too crazy an ask, then people are usually really generous with their time.
What a lesson we learned. Just spread it around, right?
Yeah.
The manageable pieces and bits. Give it to somebody who really done it before, so it's easy to them. Thank you. This is why I want to do this channel. You don't have to do it alone. There's a lot of people who will be passionate about what you're doing, and they if you're likable, they will like you and want to support you, which is amazing. And give those credits like they're candy. Just producer, produce. Yeah, yes. You brought me coffee, you're a producer. Yeah. Let's talk about something that a lot of people struggle with even to comprehend. We are all artists. When it comes to money, a lot of people are losing their grips on reality. Okay, but you're a producer. You come from the world where you need to deal with that, and you came into this animation with your own experience. Please tell me, if you don't mind, be specific. What was your budget? How did you get it? What's the journey between having no money in a fully funded production?
This
Please.
is a great question. I'd have to go back and check the budget about what the actual like animation budget was because we had like separate things for educational materials and a variety of other things because we're trying to do like a book and like a variety of other ancillary content. So I might need a second, but I will say this. One thing I always say about making a film is you could make something amazing for nothing. So money should never, particularly now, money should never be a barrier to making your art. Does it mean that you might do it a different way? Absolutely. But you could go to Sundance with a film shot on your iPhone. It's been done before. There are so many ways to create that are very accessible to us. And so it's more about the concept. You know, there's no excuse to not make the art. The only issue is, are you willing to follow your creative obstructions? Okay, this is what I have. These are the things I know I can do. And lean into the things that you're good at. If you know we have this and we can do that, and those are the things that are accessible to you, double down on the things you have and make that shine, as opposed to forcing yourself to stretch to something that might not be feasible. I think for us, we knew that we weren't going to become animators right away. Not, you know, and we wanted to really have someone that we could collaborate with that was better than us for this project, you know, particularly knowing that we just hadn't worked in animation before. So having somebody who was very experienced was important to us. And so really all the money that we fundraised was, you know, to support the animator. I could be wrong, but I think all in our overall budget was about $125,000.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of money.
Yeah,
It's a
120.
lot of money. And we were able to raise the funds through a grant, through multiple grants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what took the project so long to make. We might have said we started the project in 2018, 2019, and then we began a process, and this is true to indie filmmaking. We began working with Dan and we got through a first round of our animatic. And then the pandemic hit and it was impossible to raise film funds because everyone, and this is reasonable. I'm not criticizing the experience. Like people needed money in other places. People needed food support. They needed healthcare support. Like the world was really struggling at the time. So I completely understand why supporting a little indie animation for kids wasn't a priority at the time. We sort of had to sit on the back burner for a minute. We continued to kind of like think about how we could raise funds, but it really put the project on pause for a while. Was that ideal? No. But did we make it work? Absolutely. And you just have
Mm-hmm.
to stay flexible. And then as things started to improve for the world, we began to see more funding opportunities pop up. And when we felt like we had a good chunk to get us through working with Dan, we went back to him, waited till he was available again, because obviously he's incredible and like well sought after. And when he was free, we began a process of working with him again in January of 2023, and we finished in December of 2023. So it took us about a year. And even though we already had the designs, he really did an amazing job of sticking to the designs.
Mm-hmm.
We did rework the animatic, and I had reworked the script a bit too. So was the time lost? No, because it gave us a chance to really refine the film and its concepts. And I think we came out with a stronger film because of it, but would have been cool to finish faster, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, we in terms of fundraising, we went through multiple organizations and grants. We worked with an organization called Native Arts and Cultures Foundation. They support Native and Indigenous artists. We worked with Pacific Islanders in communications. They support content about Polynesia or Polynesians in the American experience for public broadcast. So this film will be part of a public broadcast on PBS in the US,
Mm-hmm.
or in some form. It might be digital. Nia Taro, which is another organization, supported the film. KS Kaya Ulu, which is an organization that supports education for Native Hawaiian children. And then the Nichols Family Fund, which supports the filmmakers of Hawaiian descent. Oh, and then the Atherton Foundation in Hawaii. So, we are very privileged to be supported by a lot of places, but we took, grant writing takes time.
Yeah.
And so, we did the diligence. We did not do a Kickstarter for this project. I'm not opposed to it. I think a lot of people have found a lot of success. But with this one, because we knew it was a project for kids and for a specific group of kids, we really targeted granting entities that would align with what we were making, and we were very fortunate. But it's, fundraising is a lot of work, even if you're grant writing, it takes a lot of time. So, it's never free money, but
Yeah.
but I'm very grateful for it. And then we did reach out. Film Independent is our fiscal sponsor. Um, if people don't know what a fiscal sponsor is, if you have a fiscal sponsor, they are the entity that can provide you with sort of a nonprofit status. So let's say you as a filmmaker want to have people support your project, but they don't want to just give you $500. They want something in return, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than doing a Kickstarter, they could get $500 in tax write-offs.
Amazing information. We are hitting gold here, guys. Amazing.
Really great way to put it. I think like finding money can be just as creative as like the actual filmmaking process, the other parts of the filmmaking process, because this isn't, you don't got the money, sometimes you can't do the thing. And again, it shouldn't be what
Mhm.
prevents you from making the work, but the way that we wanted to do it, we knew we would have to fundraise. Understanding which organizations would align or connect with the work that you're doing, it fits in with their mission statements. People want to fund work. They want to find things that support their goals and have that alignment. So it's really about getting creative about, oh, this place does this or that place does that. And just thinking about your bigger network. Oh, I know that this person really is into this, like maybe they'll support the work. So taking the time, sitting down and creating a plan and a strategy and doing the research. Us coming up with this list of potential funders that became real funders didn't happen in 5 minutes. We
Mhm.
did the Google research. We took the time to kind of see what was out there. We applied to places that said no, and that's okay too, right? You can't, it takes time to apply to the grants, but it's worth it because, for 20 hours of work, you get $20,000. I mean, that's a pretty incredible return, right? So
Mhm.
I always have to remind myself that it's worth it, and putting in the time is worth it, because a lot of people will do the grants, but they turn them around really quickly. They don't spend the time, and it translates, then you don't get the grant,
Mhm.
because people will see the typos, they'll see that it's sloppy. It's putting care into your work across the board, whether it's in the actual animation, in the sound records, it's all informs the outcome of the project. Every piece is important, including the fundraising. If you approach it thoughtfully, then people will respond.
Yeah, it's very important to do your research. Everything you do needs to shine, even if it's just a text, just an email. It needs
And I'm
to,
all for failure. I fail all the time. But if you're not at least putting your best foot forward,
yeah.
if it doesn't work, then you can still test it, right? But you
Hmm.
have to try. You have to try to always put your best out there.
Wonderful. And also, as we heard, this film was met with support, but also with a lot of no's. And
Yep.
what's the percentage of no's and yeses? What do you think?
Oh gosh. Maybe half?
Half. That's a good ratio.
It
Uh,
is. No, it is. And part of that is because having fundraised for my previous documentary work, I had a good understanding of organizations and where to
mhm.
look. I would say even if you're just getting 10 to 20% return, that's still really great.
Yeah.
I have a friend who works in sales, And he always says, if you get a 30% return, you're doing well. So you should expect the no's and be cool with it. Because if you're getting like 30% yes, you are doing well. And these are really competitive spaces, and I've gotten passes from organizations where I knew everybody and it felt like it should be a yes and
Mhm.
it got a no. So, and that's okay, because I'll come back next time with a different project and ask again.
Yeah,
So it's not always going to be a fit this time, but maybe the next time it will be.
that's wonderful. That's it's priceless advice. At what stage do you ask for money? Script or some art with that, or is it just different throughout the project?
Ooh, that's a great question. So we were fortunate in that we were able to apply for R&D funds, so research and development funds. And that got us through to sort of like get the animatic and the designs done in the first round. And then we use that to really like push forward and get the other funding we needed. A lot of times that push for a deck, for a little work sample, for some designs, anything to put things forward to give people a real sense of what the film's going to feel like and what it's about. I think is really important. So for this, it wasn't just having a script, it was having some visual elements to really speak to what the film will be like.
You need a deck. You need to present.
It's helpful. Obviously, every filmmaker has different connections and different opportunities. If it's somebody you really know and they read the script and they're excited and they know, oh, your collaborators and you are amazing. Like maybe you don't need the other things, but maybe you do. So it's always case by case. You always got to like feel out the opportunity and make sure you kind of understand what's gonna give you the best leg up on it. I was open to doing I'd do a bake sale. If you need just like a little bit of cash to make a deck and get some stuff out or some designs, like whatever you can do, car wash, anything, like it's all valid. If you just need like 500 bucks, $1,000, how do you cobble that together just so you can get things moving? And then you can really push for more if you need more, or maybe you don't. There is respect to any way you find the cash as long as it's ethical and legal.
Absolutely. No, no robbing banks, okay?
Yeah, no robbing a bank.
Please. So fantastic. I love this interview very so much. What are the biggest challenges throughout this production? What do you think sticks out?
I think for me personally, having worked with real people for the majority of my career, an actor brings a lot and a real person brings a lot. We were working with an incredible animator who would present performances. And I think the piece that I learned from the most is how do we bring about a great performance? What are those details, those things that you need? I actually began training with a acting coach to really
Mm.
like give me a sense for what felt more human and kind of push that. That was an incredible training for me. And it's something I've been wanting to do. And so, as we were getting to this process, I was like, okay, what don't I know how to do? And I had never worked with actors, not
Mm-hmm.
as a director, on the producing side maybe, but not as a director. And so this was a really great opportunity for me to force myself to dig into where I was uncomfortable and learn. Yeah, it worked. I'm very grateful. It was really hard and it was really uncomfortable. And our whole team was really great to just like help us work through getting the best version of performances we could.
So we covered the production. Let's go into the stage you're right now.
Yeah.
You in the festival circle right now. Share your experience, maybe something you learned to keep in mind.
We've been really fortunate. We had an incredible world premiere at the New York International Children's Film Festival. It was the perfect fit for us because it really cemented the film in the children's space, which was really important to our team. It was also fun because it was the first time our entire team could meet in one place. Our animator was in Rhode Island, our composer and sound designer, Queens and Brooklyn, New York. The rest of our team was in Hawaii. And so knowing that we were spread across many time zones, the chance to actually get into one place and meet, super fun. And then also getting a chance to, we tend to test the work. I like to do like test screenings to see if is the work working? Are people responding to the things you think? But there's nothing like being there in a theater and actually in real time experiencing people's reactions. And so that's been really instructive for me to understand, okay, how do I improve myself for the future? How are people responding to the film? We've just been really blessed. We won 2 audience awards at our world premiere, the Grand Jury Prize for Audience Award, and then also for ages 8 and up. And then at our next film festival, VC Film Fest, which is in LA, we won a jury award as well. So we were 2 for 2, and very grateful to say that we will have a handful more film festivals popping off, including Zlin in the Czech Republic. I have to be cautious because I always have to check when they say you can start to announce that you've been accepted. Because as filmmakers, you'll find that you get into a film festival, it's amazing, and all of a sudden you have to provide them all this information. You have to send them a screener copy of the film, meaning things that the jury or programmers can watch, then an exhibition copy of the film so they can actually screen it for audiences in the future. You know, you have to include bios, headshots, like a press kit, like all these details so they can start to judge the film, but also if you get in, then they can use all those materials, you know, to get people excited about the film. You need a social media account. Like there's so much to think about. And I'm grateful that I've just been updating the press kit and the website as we go. And we didn't get everything done before the film premiered in the world, but we're starting to add to it. So we're going to have a trailer that we roll out when we show the film at home. So the trailer is going to get released later this year. And then educational materials as well to go with the film, and those will come out later this year as well. Didn't get it all done at once, but it will happen.
That's wonderful. I hope you guys get to Holy Shorts and we'll meet in person. What is the strategy? Do you apply to everything, all the festivals? What are you just saturating and hoping for the best? Is there a more nuanced approach?
With my last short doc, it was like very slow and steady. It was interesting. Short films don't have the same kind of premiere requirements that feature films have. So with my last short, which is documentary, it ended up showing at Sundance, but later in its festival run, which was cool. With this film, we premiered at New York Children's, and our strategist has been really putting it out there, really focusing on trying to get us in the animation space, really just like for our team to feel like we have that validation in the animation space. So really grateful for that. And with kids film festivals, there's also a whole world of Native and Indigenous film festivals as well. So really trying to dig into that. Obviously, we would be humbled and grateful to show at some of the bigger tier festivals. It's been a little bit more of a broader reach. I think our strategist is really excited to get us qualified for an Oscar. Qualifying in and of itself is a gift, and I would be thrilled just to
Yeah.
qualify. So that's something that, yeah, that's something that I think has informed why we're applying so broadly. If we can get one opportunity to qualify, then we really want to be able to double down on that. And I want to put this out there to everybody, like, I never thought I'd be able to do something like that. You know, I've made multiple documentaries. I was like, oh, that's for other people. Nobody's going to take my work seriously, or I'm just a nobody. And why not?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at the work that you've done, like who knew? I never thought I could work with like people who have been to the Oscars or nominated for Oscars or anything like that. It seems so big. And yet I've had this privilege. So I really want to encourage everyone, do the best work you can, be as kind as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Be as thoughtful as you can. Your rush isn't necessarily other people's rush. Be smart and thoughtful about how you work with others and dream big.
Yeah, exactly my thoughts. It's like a cheat code. How else can you get so close to Oscars? You literally, on your iPad, you can create something that it will be qualified for Oscars.
Absolutely.
It's insane. Nothing else come close. Hopefully you'll get what you dream, the qualification for the
Thank you.
Oscars, and maybe even a short list. That's like the steps. First you qualify, then you shortlist, then you nominate, then you win. And just to be qualified, it's fun.
I think other dreams that we have, there's also the children's Emmys, very much looking at that. There is a whole world of outreach screenings. We really want to get the film out to Hawaiians everywhere. We're really excited to do that. We're writing the book. So we'll have a book with text. So the film is nonverbal, but the book will have words in it. So it'll be kind of a cool companion to that. One thing that I'm very excited about for the film is we're going to do bilingual outputs. What does that mean? The film right now, the credits and everything, it's in English, but there are many Native Hawaiian speakers in the world. And so outputting materials so that Native Hawaiian speakers can see a film that was made in their language for them, and to give kids who are speakers of Native Hawaiian access to materials that are for them. And I've never been able to do that. I couldn't have dreamed this big, and I'm super excited to do it. As a people, there was a long time where we weren't allowed to speak our own language. My mother doesn't speak Hawaiian because she wasn't able to. It wasn't allowed. And so to say that now we're putting out a film that will have an all Hawaiian version of it, it's a reclamation of culture and identity, and something that I'm really proud to be able to put out into the world.
That's wonderful. Maybe next movie you will be there's gonna be dialogues because
I think I'm scared of words, but I'm down to
yeah,
try.
I wanna talk to you about that. I have a beef with animators. Start writing dialogues, start
Thank
working with voice actors. They're amazing. I love your movie. I would like to hear a little bit of conversation there. Next
Yeah.
movie, promise me your next animation will have some dialogues and
I love
some
that you're bringing up.
challenge yourself.
No, I really love that you bring that up because I do want to do another one. I do think that's going to be part of it. So I think there is going to be growth, and I will say this, in with the humble recordings that we did do with the girls singing the sighs and those sort of records, it was super fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and trying to get it right, the right tone, the right fit. It's a challenge, man. It was a great challenge. And so I appreciate you giving me that note, and it's definitely something I've been thinking about. So that is something I will look forward to doing, adding more dialogue to future work.
And it's another hack to work with big names.
Yeah,
You might not get them if you want them for your movie.
sure.
But for animation, it's just half an hour on Zoom.
Really well said. Thank you for saying that. It is an easier ask.
It's a
It's an
much
easier
easier
ask.
ask.
That's a really great pro tip. I will remember that one. Thank you.
Yeah, that's how we got Tiffany Haddish and Eugenia Derbez, and it just for them it was fun, easy fun. I truly enjoyed this conversation. It was
Same.
full of eye-opening educational stuff. If you have a last word, kind of to finish it off.
I think last thing to say is be as bold and as creative as you can, and dig into who you are as an artist. And that's always a work in progress. I'm going to try and do the same, and I'm excited to see what everybody makes.
Wonderful. I really hope to see you in 1 year when we discuss your new movie, or 2 years or whatever. Okay. And also, I would love to talk to all of your producers, your animator, if you can make this connection. Love to talk to them too, because this movie is so complex. It has all the elements we want to learn from. So let's make it a journey. It deserves it. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, for insight. Ciara Lacy, ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a round of applause. Great news, congratulations.
Thank you for the opportunity to chat and talk about process, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, Ciara. See you. Have fun.
Bye.
Enjoy yourself. Bye-bye.